Maya Jackson adjusted her name tag for the 5th time as she studied her reflection in the staff bathroom mirror. The black uniform fit well enough, pressed crisp that morning in her studio apartment. Her natural coils were gathered in a neat bun, a few tendrils escaping to frame her face. She'd applied minimal makeup, enough to look professional, not enough to appear like she was trying too hard. "You're invisible," she reminded herself. That's the whole point. The Pemberton estate sprawled across 15 acres of Connecticut countryside, and tonight it hosted the wedding reception of Sophia Pemberton and Trevor Whitman. Old money marrying new money in a celebration that cost more than Maya would earn in 5 years. Elite Catering had hired 20 extra servers for the event, and Maya needed this job. Her mother's treatment didn't pay for itself. Jackson, the catering manager, a perpetually stressed woman named Carol, rushed past with a clipboard. "You're assigned to the East Wing table's VIP section. Best behavior, minimal interaction, invisible service." "Yes, ma'am." "And Jackson," Carol's voice dropped, "some very important people are here tonight. Don't mess this up." Maya nodded, swallowing the familiar taste of being reduced to a potential mistake. She collected her tray of champagne flutes and pushed through the service doors into the ballroom. The sight stole her breath. Cream roses cascaded from 20-foot ceilings. Gold-rimmed china set tables draped in silk. A string quartet played softly from an elevated stage, and the guests dripping in diamonds wrapped in designer labels, radiating the kind of wealth that insulated people from consequences. Maya moved through the crowd like water, offering champagne with a practiced smile that never reached her eyes. Most guests took glasses without acknowledgement, as if the flutes materialized by magic. A few nodded. One elderly woman actually said, "Thank you," which felt like finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk. Then she reached table 1. 6 men occupied the corner table slightly apart from the others. They wore tuxedos like armor, and despite their polished appearance, something about them whispered danger. Conversation seemed to curve around their table, guests unconsciously avoiding eye contact. The man at the head of the table was Y. Dante Romano looked like violence poured into an expensive suit, probably early 30s, with dark hair styled with casual precision and a jawline sharp enough to cut. But it was his eyes that made Maya's hand tremble slightly as she approached, cold, calculating, missing some essential warmth that made people fully human. Yet, when those eyes landed on her, they shifted, focused, sore. "Champagne, sir." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Thank you." His voice was deep, textured with the remnants of an Italian accent. He took the glass, and their fingers brushed for half a second. Electricity shot up Maya's arm. She jerked back slightly, professional mask slipping. His eyes narrowed fractionally, as if he'd felt it too. The man to his right, massive with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, smirked into his drink. "You're new," Dante said. "Not a question. First time at this venue." "Yes, sir." "From?" The question was too personal for a server-guest interaction, but something about his tone demanded an answer. "Brooklyn originally. Harlem now." One corner of his mouth lifted barely, but definitely there. "Long commute. Worth it for good work, sir?" He leaned back in his chair, still watching her with that unsettling intensity. "Good work." Maya hesitated. Was this a test, a game? Rich people ask trick questions sometimes, looking for ammunition to complain to management. "I do my best, sir." "I'm sure you do." He raised the champagne glass slightly, a toast to her before taking a sip. Dismissed, but somehow not diminished. Maya moved to the next table, her heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel his gaze following her across the ballroom. "Don't be stupid," she told herself. "Men like that don't see women like you." Not really. The reception proceeded smoothly for another hour. Toasts were made. The bride and groom had their first dance. Maya refilled glasses. Cleared plates remained invisible. Then Sophia Pemberton's mother decided to make a scene. Maya was balancing a tray of champagne when Mrs. Pemberton appeared at her elbow, already 3 glasses deep, and looking for someone to punish for her daughter's mediocre marriage. She pointed a manicured finger. "Bring me another glass. The good champagne, not this pedestrian nonsense." "Of course, ma'am." "One moment. What part of now is difficult for you to understand?" Maya bit her tongue and turned toward the service station. But Mrs. Pemberton wasn't finished. She stepped directly into Maya's path, and whether by accident or design, her elbow connected with the tray. Crystal shattered. Champagne exploded across Maya's uniform. The ballroom's ambient noise dropped to shocked silence. "Oh my God," Mrs. Pemberton gasped theatrically. "Look what you've done. These shoes are Louboutin." Maya stood frozen, champagne dripping from her hair, down her face, soaking through to her skin. Every eye in the ballroom locked on her. Heat crept up her neck, not from shame, but from rage that had nowhere to go. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Let me." "Sorry." Pemberton's voice rose, performing for the crowd. "Do you have any idea how much these cost?" "Of course you don't. People like you should know their place." The words landed like a slap. Maya's vision tunneled. She'd spent her whole life watching people like Mrs. Pemberton treat people like her mother as disposable. Worked 3 jobs to afford community college, skipped meals to pay for her mother's medication. And this woman, draped in more wealth than Maya would see in a lifetime, thought she had the right. "Pemberton." Dante Romano's voice cut through the ballroom like a blade. He hadn't raised his volume, but the sheer authority in his tone made Sophia's mother step back instinctively. He rose from his chair with the fluid grace of a predator, crossing the distance to where Maya stood. Up close, he was taller than she'd realized, at least 6 feet 3 inches, and his presence seemed to bend the very air. "Romano," Mrs. Pemberton simpered. "I apologize for the disruption. This woman," Dante corrected softly, "was assaulted by you." "I what?" "No," she spilled. "I saw you strike her tray." His dark eyes hadn't left Maya's face. Everyone at table 1 saw it. "Shall I have them testify?" The ballroom held its collective breath. Pemberton's face cycled through shock, fury, and fear in rapid succession. "Romano, surely you understand that staff." "Vincent." The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across Maya's brown skin as she stood frozen in the center of the marble ballroom. Her black uniform was soaked with champagne, the expensive liquid dripping onto Italian shoes that cost more than her monthly rent. The bride's mother stood before her, chin raised in aristocratic contempt while 200 guests watched in entertained silence. "People like you," the woman hissed loud enough for the front tables to hear, "should know their place." Maya's fingers trembled at her sides. She'd endured worse in her 26 years. Poverty, hunger, her mother's medical bills. But this public humiliation burned differently. Through her wet eyelashes, she glimpsed the man at table 1, tall, dangerous, watching her with eyes darker than midnight. Dante Romano hadn't moved since the champagne flute accidentally collided with Maya's tray, but something in his stillness made the air itself hold its breath. "Vincent," he said quietly to the man beside him. His voice barely rose above a whisper, yet every head turned. "Cancel the wedding." They passed Carol, whose face had gone chalk white. "Romano, I can assure you this is an isolated incident. Jackson is no longer in your employ," Dante said without slowing. "Send her final paycheck to my office with a bonus for hostile work environment." "But sir, are we unclear?" Carol stumbled over her agreement, and then they were through the service doors into the blessedly quiet staff corridor. Maya's mind spun. She'd just lost her job. No. She'd been rescued from her job by a man who casually owned catering companies and wedding venues. What the hell just happened? Dante led her to a private elevator she hadn't known existed. His security guard, Vincent, he'd been called, appeared from nowhere to hold the door. Up close, the man was genuinely terrifying, built like a tank with cold eyes that assessed her as a potential threat. "3rd floor," Dante said. "My private suite." Maya's survival instincts finally kicked in. "I should probably just go home." Soaking wet in November. He looked at her properly for the first time since leaving the ballroom, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "I'm not going to hurt you, Maya." The sound of her name in his mouth did strange things to her pulse. "You know my name. I make it my business to know things." The elevator doors slid open to reveal a hallway that looked nothing like the rest of the venue. Modern, minimalist, expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. "This way." His suite was actually a full apartment, all floor-to-ceiling windows and sleek furniture that probably cost more than her annual income. The view overlooked manicured gardens lit by subtle landscaping lights stretching into darkness. Dante shrugged out of his tuxedo jacket and draped it over a chair. "The bedroom has a bathroom. Take a shower, warm up. I'll have Vincent bring appropriate clothing. I don't understand what's happening." "You were humiliated by a bigoted woman at an event I was attending." He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. I corrected the situation by canceling her daughter's wedding. By establishing consequences, he offered her one of the glasses. The Pembertons have built their fortune on the backs of people they consider beneath them. It was past time someone reminded them that actions have costs. Maya didn't take the drink. And what's the cost to me? His eyes sharpened. Intelligent question. You think I want something in return? Men like you always want something. Men like me. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Tell me, Maya Jackson from Brooklyn and Harlem. What kind of man am I? Dangerous, powerful, capable of burning down worlds with a phone call, but also, and this scared her more, the kind of man who noticed when someone was being hurt and stepped in to stop it. I don't know yet, she said honestly. He set both glasses down on the marble counter. Never assume you understand someone until they show you who they are. Now go shower. We'll talk after. Maya wanted to argue to maintain some control over this insane situation, but she was freezing and sticky, and her pride had already been shredded in front of 200 people. A hot shower sounded like salvation. The bathroom was obscene. Heated floors, rainfall shower head, toiletries that probably cost more than her grocery budget. She peeled off her ruined uniform and stood underwater hot enough to turn her skin pink, washing away champagne and humiliation. When she emerged 20 minutes later, wrapped in a robe so soft it felt like sin, she found clothing laid out on the bed, designer jeans that somehow fit perfectly, a cashmere sweater in deep burgundy, underwear still in the package, even shoes, simple leather flats in exactly her size. How does he know my size? She dressed quickly and returned to the main room to find Dante at the window, phone pressed to his ear. He spoke in rapid Italian, his tone cold and authoritative. When he noticed her, he ended the call mid-sentence. Better much. She gestured at the clothing. How did you? I'm good at reading people. He picked up the drinks he'd poured earlier, offering one again. Bourbon. It'll help with the adrenaline crash. This time she accepted. The liquid burned pleasantly down her throat. You speak Italian. My family is from Sicily. 3rd-generation American, but some things carry forward. He studied her over the rim of his glass. You looked surprised earlier when I knew your name. Elite catering requires background checks for events at this level. I read every file. That's invasive. Probably. He moved closer, and Maya forced herself not to step back, but thorough. I know you've worked for them for 8 months. Exemplary record, no complaints. Before that, you were at 3 other catering companies, 2 restaurants, and a hotel. Always excellent reviews. Always professional. Her fingers tightened on the glass. You really do make it your business to know things. I know your mother has stage 3 cancer. I know you dropped out of community college to pay for her treatment. I know you live alone in a rent-controlled apartment in Harlem and sent half your paycheck to her care facility in Queens. His eyes never left hers. I know tonight wasn't the first time someone treated you as less than human because of the color of your skin or the size of your bank account, but I'm betting it was the first time someone destroyed their social standing to defend you. Maya's throat tightened. Why did I intervene? Why do you care? You don't know me. I'm nobody to you. Dante set his glass down with deliberate care. That's where you're wrong, Maya. You're not nobody. You're someone who's been fighting her whole life with dignity and grace. Someone who works 3 jobs to save her mother. Someone who didn't flinch when Sophia Pemberton's mother tried to make her feel small. He stepped closer, and the air between them charged with something electric. You're someone who interests me very much. I don't understand. I'm offering you a job. Whatever she'd expected, it wasn't that. What kind of job? Personal assistant. You'd manage my schedule, handle correspondence, coordinate with my various business interests. Legal businesses, he added with a slight smile. Before you ask, real estate, investments, hospitality. The pay is $200,000 a year, plus benefits, including full health coverage for you and your mother. Maya's knees went weak. $200,000. Her mother could have the experimental treatment her insurance wouldn't cover. She could finish school. She could breathe for the first time in years. What's the catch? Smart woman. Dante's smile widened fractionally. The catch is that you'd be working for me, Dante Romano. And while my business ventures are legal, my reputation is complicated. People will make assumptions about our relationship. Some of those assumptions will be ugly. Are they true? The assumptions. That depends on which ones you mean. Maya finished her bourbon in one swallow, needing the courage. Are you Mafia? The silence stretched long enough to hear her heartbeat. Yes, Dante said finally. My family has a legacy. I've worked to legitimize our operations. But the past doesn't wash away easily. I won't lie to you about what I am or where I come from. Will I be in danger? I would never allow anyone to hurt you. The certainty in his voice should have seemed arrogant. Instead, it felt like a vow. Why me? Maya asked. You could hire anyone. Someone with credentials, connections, experience. Because you have something I need more than credentials. What secrets is the Mafia boss hiding behind his cold exterior? And what happens when two people from completely different worlds collide? The story gets even more intense from here. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat at her small kitchen table in her studio apartment, Dante's business card in front of her, and researched until her eyes burned. What she found didn't comfort her. Dante Romano, age 32, CEO of Romano Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar investment firm specializing in real estate development, luxury hospitality, and private security. On paper, completely legitimate. In practice, his name appeared in the margins of articles about organized crime, always as alleged or suspected, but never proven. His father, Marco Romano, had died in a car bombing when Dante was 19. His uncle had disappeared the same year. Dante had taken over the family's interests, transformed them from obviously criminal to legally gray, and built an empire that straddled both worlds. He was called the Ice King in certain circles. Ruthless, brilliant, dangerous to cross, and he'd offered her $200,000 a year to be his assistant. Her phone rang at 7 a.m., startling her from a half-doze over her laptop. Unknown number. Hello, Miss Jackson. A professional female voice. This is Dr. Rodriguez from Meadowbrook Care Facility. I'm calling about your mother's treatment. Maya's heart stopped. Is she okay? She's fine. Better than fine, actually. I wanted to inform you that her account has been paid in full for the next 2 years, including the experimental immunotherapy treatment we discussed last month. The donor also set up a discretionary fund for any additional medical needs. But she knew. Of course, she knew. The paperwork says anonymous benefactor, but I wanted to make sure you were aware. We'll begin the new treatment protocol on Monday if you approve. Maya's hand shook. Yes, of course. After she hung up, she stared at Dante's business card for a long time. He'd done this before she'd even decided, before she could say yes or no. He'd just saved her mother's life because he could. You deserve someone to fight for you. Her phone rang again. This time, she recognized the number. Carol from Elite Catering. Maya, I'm so sorry about what happened. Romano was very clear that the incident was not your fault. Your final check will include a severance bonus of $5,000 and a glowing reference letter. $5,000 for one night of work ending in public humiliation. Thank you, Carol. If you need a job in the future, I'll personally. I appreciate it. Maya ended the call and picked up the black business card. She dialed before she could talk herself out of it. Dante answered on the second ring. Good morning, Maya. How did you know it was me? I've been waiting for your call. A pause. Did Dr. Rodriguez reach you? You didn't have to do that. I hadn't decided yet. I know, but your mother needed treatment, and I had the means to provide it. The two things aren't connected. Everything's connected. Maya stood, pacing her small apartment. You're not giving me a choice. Not really. You always have a choice. His voice was maddeningly calm. Say no and the treatment continues. Say yes and you also get the job. Either way, your mother is taken care of. That's manipulation. It's compassion. There's a difference. Maya laughed slightly hysterical. You're a mafia boss lecturing me about compassion. I'm a man who knows what it's like to watch someone you love suffer because you can't afford to save them. The sudden rawness in his voice stopped her pacing. My mother died of a treatable illness when I was 17. We had money, plenty of it, but it was dirty money, and the best doctors wouldn't touch us. By the time I found someone willing to help, it was too late. Silence. I can't save my mother, Maya, but I can save yours. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. Why are you being so honest with me? Because you asked direct questions, and you deserve direct answers. She heard him moving, fabric rustling. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would horrify you, but I'm trying to be better than what I was raised to be. And I think, he paused, I think maybe you're someone who could help me remember why that matters. I don't understand what you want from me. I want you to work for me. I want you to be safe and compensated fairly for your skills. And yes, selfishly, I want you close because you're the first person in a decade who looked at me and saw a person instead of a threat or an opportunity. His voice dropped lower. But what I need is for you to say yes, so I can sleep at night knowing you're not serving champagne to people who treat you like furniture. Maya closed her eyes. This was insane. He was a stranger, a dangerous stranger who'd upended her entire life in one evening. But her mother would live. And maybe, just maybe, she could stop running on empty all the time. When do I start? She heard his sharp inhale. Monday, 9 a.m. Vincent will pick you up. I can take the subway, Maya. The way he said her name made her stomach flip. This isn't negotiable. Is everything with you going to be a command? Only the things that concern your safety. Thank you for trusting me. I don't trust you. Not yet. Don't trust anyone until they earn it. After they hung up, Maya sat in her apartment as morning light filtered through her single window and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. 3 weeks later, working for Dante Romano was nothing like Maya expected. His office occupied the top floor of a glass tower in Manhattan, all modern architecture and ruthless efficiency. Her desk sat in an antechamber outside his private office, positioned so she could monitor everyone coming and going. The salary had been deposited into her account exactly as promised, along with health insurance that covered literally everything, and a company credit card for expenses. The work itself was demanding, but not impossible. Dante kept a brutal schedule, meetings starting at 7 a.m., ending well past midnight. He operated businesses across a dozen industries, and Maya quickly learned to track them all. She coordinated with lawyers, accountants, property managers, and various other executives, all of whom treated her with wary respect once they understood she had Dante's trust, and she was beginning to understand that Dante Romano's trust was a rare and valuable thing. He was professional with her, courteous, never inappropriate. But there were moments, glances that lasted too long, his hand brushing hers when passing documents, the way his voice softened when he said her name, that suggested something simmering beneath the surface. Maya tried to ignore it, tried to focus on the work, the generous salary, the fact that her mother was responding well to treatment. Then someone tried to kill him. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Maya was reviewing expense reports when Vincent appeared in her doorway, his expression tight. We have a situation. Stay here. What kind of? The windows exploded. Glass shattered inward as gunfire erupted from the building across the street. Maya dropped behind her desk on instinct, hands over her head, her heart trying to escape her chest. More gunfire, shouting the acrid smell of gunpowder. Then Dante was there pulling her up, his body shielding hers as he dragged her toward the panic room she hadn't known existed behind a false wall. Stay down. He pushed her through the door, and she stumbled into a small reinforced room lined with monitors showing security feeds. Dante, I'll be right back. He started to close the door. She grabbed his arm. Don't go back out there. His eyes met hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw real emotion there. Fear not for himself, but for her. I have to protect my people, but I need you to understand what that means. If I kiss you now, I'm claiming you, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. Maya's eyes snapped open. I'm not property. No, you're infinitely more valuable. His dark eyes searched hers. But in my world, relationships are leverage, weaknesses to exploit. If you're mine, every enemy I have will try to use you against me. Then maybe this is a bad idea. His hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers threading through her natural curls. But I've stopped caring about good ideas where you're concerned. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was possession and desperation and 3 weeks of tension finally breaking. Maya gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, deepening the kiss until she forgot how to breathe. His other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him, and she felt his control fracturing. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. Tell me to stop, he whispered. Tell me this is moving too fast, that you need time, that I'm your boss, and this is inappropriate. Give me a reason to do the right thing. Maya's hands had somehow found their way to his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palms. What if I don't want you to stop? He groaned. Maya, I'm terrified, she admitted, of you, of this world, of how much I want you when I barely know you. But I'm also tired of playing it safe. Tired of being invisible. She looked up at him. You see me, Dante? Really? See me? When was the last time someone did that? Never, he guessed. Never, she confirmed. He kissed her again, softer this time, almost reverent. I see you, he murmured against her lips. Your strength, your kindness, the way you fight for people you love. I see all of it. And it's beautiful. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. Don't make promises you can't keep. I keep my promises, all of them. He pulled back enough to look at her. Stay with me tonight. Just to sleep, he added quickly. I need to know you're safe. Dante showed her to a guest room that was bigger than her entire apartment, with an attached bathroom, featuring a bathtub large enough to swim in. He provided her with clothes, one of his shirts and soft pants that had to be rolled multiple times, and left her with a gentle kiss to her forehead. Maya showered and changed, then found herself too wired to sleep. She wandered the penthouse, studying the art and books that offered glimpses into Dante Romano's private self. Classical music collection, philosophy texts, a shelf of worn paperback thrillers that seemed incongruous with his sophisticated image. She found him in his study, still dressed but jacket discarded, working at a massive desk. Can't sleep either, he asked without looking up. Too much adrenaline. She entered the room, drawn to the wall of windows behind his desk. You really can see the whole city from here. Sometimes I stand here and count the lights. Arrogant, accurate. He smiled against her mouth. Stay with me, Maya. Not just tonight. Let me protect you, cherish you, give you everything you deserve. That's not a relationship, Dante. That's a fairy tale. Then let me give you a fairy tale. His eyes held hers, dark and intense and utterly sincere. You fought alone your whole life. Let someone fight for you for once. Maya felt tears slip down her cheeks. What if you get hurt because of me? What if they? Then I handle it. That's what I do, Maya. I protect the people I love. He wiped her tears with gentle thumbs. And I love you. I know it's insane and too fast and completely illogical, but I looked at you in that ballroom 3 weeks ago, watched you endure humiliation with your head high, and something in me recognized something in you, like I'd been waiting my whole life to find you. That's destiny talking. Or maybe sometimes two people are meant to collide precisely when they both need saving. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Save me, Maya. Be my reason to keep fighting for something better. That's a lot of pressure. Then let me ease it. He pulled her close, wrapping her in arms that felt like safety and danger at once. We'll figure it out together, day by day. I'll teach you my world, and you'll teach me how to be human again. Maya buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent, expensive cologne, and something essentially him. They stood like that until the adrenaline finally faded, until exhaustion dragged them both toward sleep. Dante led her to his bedroom, a space of dark colors and masculine comfort, and they lay together on top of the covers, fully clothed, just holding each other. Thank you, he murmured into her hair. For what? For being brave enough to see past the monster everyone else sees. You're not a monster, Dante. Maybe not with you. He kissed the top of her head. Sleep, Maya. I'll keep you safe. And wrapped in his arms with his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. Maya finally believed it. Maya adjusted her mother's pillow, making sure she was comfortable in the sunlit room of the private rehabilitation facility. The experimental treatment had worked. Her mother was in remission, growing stronger every day. You look happy, her mother observed, eyes twinkling. Really happy. I am, Mama. It's him, isn't it? That man who visits every week with flowers. Maya smiled. Dante had insisted on meeting her mother properly, bringing fresh roses and conversation that charmed her completely. He'd never mentioned his role in saving her life, letting Maya tell that story in her own time. Yes, it's him. He loves you. I can see it in how he looks at you. Her mother squeezed her hand like you're the sun, and he's been living in darkness. That's dramatic, Mama. That's truth, baby girl. She studied Maya's face. You love him, too. The words came easier now. I love him so much it scares me sometimes. Good love is supposed to be a little scary. Means you're risking something real. Her mother patted her hand. He's good to you. He's everything, Mama. Protective, generous, patient. He's teaching me Italian. I'm teaching him to cook actual food instead of just ordering from restaurants. She laughed. Last week he burned water trying to make pasta. Her mother's laugh was music. You deserve this happiness, Maya. You fought so hard for so long. We both fought, Mama, and we both won. Later, Maya found Dante waiting in the facility's garden, looking at ease in casual clothes, a rare sight. He'd loosened his grip on some of his business obligations, delegating more to trusted people. The war with the Melis had ended with a negotiated peace that shocked everyone. Dante had proven he could be ruthless when necessary, but preferred strategy to violence. "Ready?" he asked, standing as she approached. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise." He took her hand, threading their fingers together. "Trust me. Always." The SUV took them to a brownstone in Brooklyn, and Maya's breath caught when she recognized her old neighborhood. "Dante, what?" "I bought it." He helped her out of the car. "The building, I mean. I'm converting it into affordable housing with a medical clinic on the first floor. Free treatment for residents who can't afford insurance." Maya stared at the building, then at him. "Because you told me about growing up here. About the neighbors who helped your mother when you couldn't afford medication. About the community that raised you. I can't give back your childhood, Maya, but I can make sure other kids don't have to choose between school and keeping their parents alive." Tears blurred her vision. "I love you." "I know." He smiled, that rare full smile that transformed his entire face. "I love you too. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. No talk of territory or threats or rivals. Not today. It's just us." He kissed her there on the Brooklyn street where she'd learned to survive in front of the building that would help others do the same. And Maya realized that sometimes fairy tales didn't end with castles and crowns. Sometimes they ended with a dangerous man choosing to be better and a strong woman choosing to believe he could. Sometimes they ended with love that transformed everything it touched. What did you think of Maya and Dante's story? Could you feel the chemistry between them? Did the wedding cancellation scene give you chills? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you love this story of a mafia boss falling for the woman who saw past his dangerous reputation, smash that like button and subscribe for more intense romance stories every week. Which moment was your favorite? When Dante canceled the wedding to defend Maya, the panic room scene during the attack, their first kiss in his penthouse, the epilogue surprise? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more mafia romance, billionaire love stories, or tales of unexpected connections, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, true love doesn't care about social status, skin color, or bank accounts. It sees the heart beneath everything else. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next. 6 months later, Maya Jackson stood in the mirror of Dante's penthouse bedroom, adjusting the silk dress he'd bought her for tonight's charity gala. The woman staring back at her barely resembled the server who'd been humiliated at the Pemberton wedding. Designer clothes fit her perfectly now, her natural hair styled in elegant curls that framed her face. But more than the external changes, something fundamental had shifted in her posture, her confidence. She carried herself like someone who belonged in this world, because Dante had made sure she knew she did. "Maya," Vincent called from the living room. "The car is ready." "Coming," she replied, slipping on diamond earrings that cost more than her old apartment's yearly rent. The jewelry had been a gift from Dante, not for any special occasion, but simply because he'd seen her admiring them in a shop window. That was who he'd become in these months together. A man who noticed what brought her joy and made sure she had it. The charity gala was being held at the Metropolitan Museum, an event Maya would have served champagne at 6 months ago. Tonight, she walked in on Dante's arm as one of the evening's honored guests. The Romano Foundation, Dante's charitable organization, was donating $2 million to fund medical research for low-income families. Maya had helped plan the entire initiative, drawing from her own experiences to identify the communities that needed help most. "You're nervous," Dante observed as they climbed the museum steps. His hand rested protectively on the small of her back, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing. "A little," Maya admitted. "These people knew me as the help 6 months ago, and now they know you as the woman who convinced Dante Romano to give away millions of dollars to people society usually ignores." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Maya, you didn't just change my world. You changed how I see everything. These people should be honored to know you." Inside the museum, Maya watched the crowd with new eyes. She recognized several faces from the Pemberton wedding, people who'd looked right through her that night. Now they approached with warm smiles and eager conversations, wanting to discuss the foundation's work, asking for her insights on community outreach. The transformation wasn't lost on her. Money and proximity to power changed how people saw you, but Dante had taught her something more important. He'd taught her to see herself as worthy of respect regardless of their opinions. Maya Jackson, a familiar voice called out. She turned to find Sophia Pemberton approaching, looking significantly less radiant than she had on her wedding day. The marriage to Trevor Whitman had lasted exactly 3 months before ending in a very public, very expensive divorce. Sophia, Maya replied evenly. How are you? I wanted to apologize, Sophia said, her voice lower than usual, for what happened at my wedding. My mother was completely out of line. Maya studied the woman who'd once represented everything she couldn't have. Sophia looked tired, older somehow, like the fairy tale marriage she'd thought she wanted had taught her some hard truths about real life. I appreciate that, Maya said simply. She didn't add that the humiliation had led to the best thing that ever happened to her. Some lessons people had to learn on their own. Mrs. Pemberton appeared at her daughter's elbow, looking significantly more subdued than Maya remembered. When their eyes met, the older woman had the grace to look ashamed. Miss Jackson, Mrs. Pemberton said quietly, I owe you an enormous apology for my behavior that night. It was inexcusable. Maya felt Dante's presence behind her, solid and reassuring, but he let her handle the moment herself. She'd grown stronger in these months, more capable of standing up for herself without needing him to fight her battles. Thank you for saying so, Maya replied. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from them. Later that evening, after the speeches and donation announcements, Maya found herself on the museum's rooftop terrace overlooking Central Park. The city spread out below them, millions of lights twinkling in the darkness like earthbound stars. Dante joined her at the railing, loosening his bow tie with obvious relief. You handled that beautifully tonight, he said. The Pembertons, the speech about the foundation, all of it. You were magnificent. Maya leaned into his warmth. 6 months ago, I would have been terrified to speak in front of all those people. 6 months ago, you were protecting yourself by staying invisible. Now you know your voice matters. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. I love watching you discover how powerful you are. The charity gala was just the beginning. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into the foundation's work with a passion that surprised even Dante. She visited community centers in Brooklyn and Harlem, talking to families about their medical needs, identifying gaps in healthcare coverage that the foundation could address. She coordinated with doctors, social workers, and community leaders to create programs that would actually reach the people who needed them most. This isn't just writing checks, Maya explained to Dante one evening as they reviewed foundation proposals in his study. We need to understand why people can't access care in the first place. Transportation, language barriers, work schedules that don't allow for medical appointments. We have to solve the whole problem, not just part of it. Dante watched her with something approaching awe. You're talking about systemic change, he said. That's not just charity work, Maya. That's social reform. So, she looked up from the papers spread across his desk. Are you saying it's too ambitious? I'm saying I want to give you everything you need to make it happen. He moved closer, studying the detailed plans she'd created. How much do you think we'd need to fund something like this properly? Maya had been thinking about that question for weeks. If we really want to make a difference, not just in New York, but as a model for other cities. $50 million. Over 5 years. She held her breath, waiting for him to tell her it was too much, too risky, too idealistic. Instead, Dante smiled. Done, he said simply. I'll have the lawyers start setting up the expanded foundation structure tomorrow. Maya stared at him. $50 million, Dante. That's not pocket change, even for you. He cupped her face in his hands. Maya, 6 months ago, I was a man who used money to buy fear and compliance. You've shown me how to use it to buy hope instead. $50 million is nothing compared to what you've given me. But their happiness couldn't exist in a vacuum. Dante's world was complicated, and Maya was learning that love didn't automatically erase the dangers that came with loving a man like him. The first real test came on a Tuesday morning in October. Maya was in the foundation office, a space Dante had set up for her in a building adjacent to his main headquarters, when Vincent appeared in her doorway looking more serious than usual. We need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. There's been a development. Maya had learned to read Vincent's expressions over the months. This wasn't about a scheduling conflict or a routine security concern. This was something serious. What kind of development? The Torino family is making moves, Vincent explained. They're not happy about Dante's legitimate business expansion. They see it as weakness, an opportunity to challenge his territory. Maya felt her stomach drop. The Torinos were one of the old-school crime families that hadn't followed Dante's path toward legitimacy. They dealt in drugs, human trafficking, and violence in ways that Dante had worked to distance himself from. What does that mean for us? For me, Vincent's expression softened slightly. It means we increase your security. It means you don't go anywhere alone. And it means Dante is going to be very, very careful about how he handles this. That evening, Maya confronted Dante about the situation. She found him in his study, surrounded by papers and looking more tense than she'd seen him in months. "Vincent told me about the Torinos," she said without preamble. Dante looked up, his expression immediately guarded. "Vincent talks too much. Don't blame him for being honest with me." Maya sat down across from his desk. "We agreed when this started that you wouldn't lie to me about the dangerous parts of your world." Dante set down his pen and leaned back in his chair. "The Torinos are testing boundaries. They think my focus on legitimate business makes me soft. They're wrong. What are you going to do?" "What I have to do." His voice carried an edge Maya recognized from their early days together. "Handle it." "That's not an answer, Dante. That's a deflection." He was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see him struggling between his instinct to protect her from this reality and his promise to be honest with her. "The Torino family operates differently than we do," he said finally. "They don't respect boundaries, don't honor agreements. They understand one thing: fear. So I'm going to remind them why challenging me is a very bad idea." Maya felt a chill run through her. "How?" Dante's eyes met hers, and she saw something cold and calculating there. A glimpse of the man he'd been before she knew him. "I'm going to destroy their drug operation from the inside. Cut off their supply lines, turn their distributors, make it impossible for them to operate in this city. And I'm going to do it in a way that leaves no doubt about who was responsible." "That sounds dangerous." "Everything I do is dangerous, Maya. The difference is that now I have something worth being careful for." The next few weeks tested their relationship in ways Maya hadn't anticipated. Dante's work hours became even more brutal as he coordinated what he called his campaign against the Torinos. Maya barely saw him, and when she did, he was distracted, tense, always checking his phone for updates from Vincent and his other lieutenants. Maya tried to focus on the foundation work, but it was difficult to concentrate on helping families when she was constantly worried about Dante's safety. She found herself jumping every time her phone rang, afraid it would be Vincent calling to tell her something had happened. "You're not sleeping," her mother observed during one of Maya's visits to the care facility. "And you've lost weight. What's wrong, baby girl?" Maya had told her mother about Dante's background months ago, but she'd never shared the specific dangers that came with his world. Now, sitting in the sunny room where her mother was recovering so beautifully, Maya felt the weight of those secrets. "Dante's dealing with some business complications," Maya said carefully. "It's stressful." Her mother studied her with eyes that had seen too much of life to be easily fooled. "Business complications," she repeated. "Maya, honey, I may be sick, but I'm not stupid. That man loves you more than his own life, and you're terrified something's going to happen to him." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. "I am, Mama. I'm so scared that loving him means I'm going to lose him." Her mother reached for her hand. "Come here, baby. Let me tell you something about loving dangerous men." Maya moved closer, letting her mother hold her the way she had when Maya was small and the world felt too big and scary. "Your daddy wasn't Mafia," her mother said quietly, "but he was dangerous in his own way. Fought in Vietnam, came back with demons he couldn't shake. I loved him anyway, even knowing those demons might take him from me someday. You never told me that about Daddy, because you were too young to understand. But you're grown now, and you need to know. Love isn't safe, Maya. It's never safe. The choice isn't whether to love someone dangerous. The choice is whether the love is worth the risk." Maya felt tears slipping down her cheeks. "What if something happens to him because of me? What if the Torinos try to hurt him through me?" Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised Maya. "Have you talked to Dante about that? About your fears?" "Of course not. He's already dealing with enough stress." "Baby girl," her mother said gently, "that man would move mountains to keep you safe, but he can't protect you from fears you don't share with him. And more importantly, he might need to know that you're strong enough to handle this world you've chosen to be part of." That night, Maya waited for Dante in his penthouse. It was nearly midnight when he finally came home, exhaustion written in every line of his body. He started to apologize for being late, but Maya cut him off. "We need to talk," she said. Dante stopped moving, instantly alert. His eyes searched her face for signs of what was coming. "Are you leaving?" he asked quietly. The question broke her heart. "No, Dante. I'm not leaving. But we need to talk about what's happening with the Torinos." "Maya, I told you I would handle it." "You told me you would handle them," she corrected. "You didn't tell me how to handle this. How to handle being terrified that you're going to get yourself killed trying to protect a world that includes me now." Dante moved closer, his expression shifting from wariness to concern. "You're scared." "I'm terrified," Maya admitted. "Not just for you, but of what it means that I love someone who might have to hurt people to keep us safe. I'm scared that I'm making you more vulnerable because you have something to lose now. And I'm scared that I'm not strong enough for this world." Dante pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. "Maya," he said into her hair, "you are the strongest person I know. You survived poverty, discrimination, watching your mother suffer, and you did it with grace. You're not weak because you're scared. You're human. But what if something happens to you because of me? Then I'll deal with it," he said simply. "Maya, look at me." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "I've been in this world my entire adult life," Dante said. "I've made enemies, fought wars, survived assassination attempts. The difference now isn't that I'm more vulnerable. The difference is that I finally have a reason to be smarter about how I handle threats." "What do you mean?" He led her to the couch, pulling her down beside him. 6 months ago, if the Torinos had challenged me, I would have responded with immediate violence. Show of force, make an example, consequences later. Now I'm thinking 3 moves ahead because I can't afford to start a war that might put you in danger." Maya studied his face. "So you're not going to hurt them?" "I'm going to neutralize them in a way that doesn't create more enemies," Dante clarified. "That's what you've taught me, Maya. That there are consequences to every choice, and the goal isn't just to win. It's to win in a way that doesn't destroy everything else you care about." Over the following days, Maya watched Dante implement what he called his strategic approach to the Torino problem. Instead of direct confrontation, he used his legitimate business connections to create problems for their operations. City health inspectors suddenly became very interested in restaurants the Torinos used for money laundering. Immigration services began looking closely at their shipping companies. Building inspectors found serious code violations at their warehouses. "It's beautiful," Vincent observed one afternoon as he updated Maya on the progress. "Instead of starting a war, he's letting the city government do the work for him. And the Torinos can't retaliate against health inspectors and building codes," Maya realized. "Exactly. They can't shoot their way out of legitimate legal problems. And every day their operations get more expensive and more complicated to maintain." Within a month, the Torino family was facing so many legal and financial difficulties that they stopped being a threat to anyone. Their leadership was too busy dealing with investigations and court dates to worry about challenging Dante's territory. "You did it," Maya told Dante one evening as they sat in his study, reviewing the final reports on the Torino situation. "You handled a threat without anyone getting hurt." "We did it," he corrected. "This whole approach, using legitimate systems instead of violence, that came from you. From watching how you solve problems with the Foundation." Maya felt a surge of pride. She'd contributed something meaningful to Dante's world, helped him find a way to be effective without compromising his values. But their relationship was tested in other ways as the months went by. Maya discovered that loving Dante meant navigating not just external dangers, but the complexities of building a life with someone whose past was so different from hers. The first major challenge came when Dante's cousin arrived from Sicily for an extended visit. Marco Romano was everything Dante had moved away from. Old-world traditional, suspicious of change, and openly disapproving of Dante's relationship with Maya. "You bring a black girl to family dinner," Marco said to Dante in Italian, apparently not realizing that Maya had been learning the language. "This is what happens when you spend too much time with Americans. You forget who you are." Maya understood every word, but she kept her expression neutral, letting Dante handle his family politics. She learned that there were battles worth fighting and battles worth letting others fight for her. "Marco," Dante replied, also in Italian, his voice dangerously quiet. "You will speak respectfully of Maya in my home, or you will leave. Those are your only choices." "She's not family," Marco protested. "She doesn't understand our traditions, our way of life." She understands more than you think, Dante said, switching to English. And she's more family to me than people who share my blood but not my values. Maya placed a gentle hand on Dante's arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. It's okay, she said quietly. Family dynamics are complicated. I get it. But Marco wasn't finished. In Sicily, Marco continued in heavily accented English. Family means something. Blood means something. You can't just decide someone is family because you want to sleep with them. The silence that followed was dangerous. Maya could feel Dante's anger like heat radiating from his skin. Vincent, who'd been standing quietly near the door, shifted slightly, ready to intervene if necessary. Maya spoke before Dante could respond. Mr. Marco, she said calmly, you're right that I'm not Sicilian. I don't share your blood or your traditions. But I love Dante, and I'm committed to building a life with him. If that's not enough for you to treat me with basic respect, then we have a problem. Marco stared at her, clearly not expecting her to stand up for herself. I understand that you're concerned about Dante maintaining his connection to his heritage, Maya continued. I would never want him to lose that. But I'm not asking him to choose between his family and me. I'm asking you to accept that his family is expanding. The dinner that followed was tense, but civil. Marco said little, but he stopped making pointed comments about Maya's presence. Later that evening, as they prepared for bed, Dante pulled Maya close. I'm sorry about Marco, he said. He comes from a different time, a different world. You don't have to apologize for your family, Maya replied. But you also don't have to let them disrespect me. I won't, Dante promised. Ever. But the encounter with Marco had raised questions that Maya hadn't fully considered before. What did it mean to build a life with someone whose cultural background was so different from hers? How much of Dante's world could she truly understand and accept? These questions became more pressing when Dante asked her to accompany him to a family wedding in Sicily. It's my cousin's daughter, Dante explained. The family expects me to be there, and I want them to meet you properly. Maya felt her stomach flip. Meeting his family on their home territory felt like a much bigger step than she was ready for. I don't know, Dante. Marco's reaction here was bad enough. How do you think a whole family gathering is going to go? Dante was quiet for a moment. I won't lie to you, Maya. It will be challenging. My family is traditional, and they have certain expectations about who I should be with. Expectations I don't meet. Expectations that don't matter to me, but that some of them still hold. Maya considered this. Part of her wanted to refuse, to avoid the inevitable discomfort and disapproval. But another part of her knew that if she and Dante were going to have a real future together, she needed to face his world completely, not just the parts that were easy to navigate. Okay, she said finally. Let's do it. The trip to Sicily was everything Maya had feared and more than she'd hoped for. The Romano family compound sat on a hillside overlooking the Mediterranean, a collection of stone houses connected by gardens and terraces that had been in the family for generations. It was beautiful and intimidating and completely unlike anything Maya had experienced. Some family members were openly hostile to her presence. Others were politely distant. But a few, particularly some of the younger cousins and the family matriarch, Dante's grandmother, seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. You speak Italian well, Dante's grandmother observed during a family dinner. Where did you learn? Dante has been teaching me, Maya replied. I wanted to be able to communicate with his family properly. The old woman smiled. That shows respect. Not everyone would make that effort. Over the course of the week, Maya found herself having genuine conversations with family members who were curious about her work with the foundation, her background, her relationship with Dante. She also faced moments of clear rejection from others who made it obvious they considered her an outsider who didn't belong. The most difficult moment came when one of Dante's uncles pulled him aside for what was clearly a serious conversation. Maya couldn't hear the words, but she could see from Dante's body language that it wasn't going well. Later that evening, Dante found her sitting on the terrace overlooking the sea. Bad conversation with your uncle, Maya observed. He thinks I'm making a mistake, Dante admitted. He thinks I should find a nice Sicilian girl from a good family and settle down properly. Maya felt her heart sink. And what did you tell him? I told him that I found the woman I want to spend my life with, and her last name and skin color don't change that. He sat down beside her, taking her hand. Maya, I need you to know something. This trip, bringing you here, it wasn't just about introducing you to my family. It was about making a choice. What kind of choice? between the expectations they have for me and the life I want to build with you. And I choose you. Every time, without question, I choose you. But later that night, Maya lay awake listening to Dante sleep and wondering if asking him to make that choice was fair. Was she worth the family tensions, the cultural complications, the inevitable conflicts that would follow them throughout their relationship? The answer came the next morning when Dante's grandmother asked to speak with her privately. "You're worried about taking him away from his family," the old woman said without preamble. They were sitting in the garden, sharing morning coffee in the Mediterranean sunshine. Maya was startled by the directness of the observation. "I don't want to be the reason he loses his connection to his heritage." Dante's grandmother laughed, a sound full of warmth and wisdom. "Child, you're not taking him away from anything. You're helping him become the man he was always meant to be." "I don't understand. This family has a complicated history," she continued. "Violence, old grudges, ways of solving problems that belong to a different time. Dante has been trying to move away from that for years, but he needed a reason to believe a different kind of life was possible. And you think I'm that reason. I know you are." The old woman patted Maya's hand. "I've seen the way he looks at you. I've heard him talk about your foundation work, your ideas for helping people. He's proud of the man he is when he's with you." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Some of your family doesn't see it that way. Some of my family is stuck in the past," the old woman said firmly. "But the future belongs to people like you and Dante. People who choose love over tradition, progress over prejudice." When they returned to New York, Maya felt different about their relationship. The trip to Sicily had forced her to confront her own fears and insecurities, but it had also shown her that their love was strong enough to withstand external pressures. Dante seemed to sense the change in her. "You're different since we got back," he observed one evening as they worked together in his study. "Different how?" "More settled," he said. "Like you've made peace with something." Maya considered this. "I think I have. In Sicily, I kept waiting for someone to tell me I didn't belong, that I wasn't good enough for you. And some people did. But I realized that their opinions don't actually matter. The only opinions that matter are yours and mine." "And what's your opinion?" "That we're good together," Maya said simply. "That what we have is worth fighting for, worth the complications, worth the challenges." Dante set down his papers and moved around the desk to where she was sitting. "Good," he said, pulling her into his arms. "Because I have something I want to discuss with you." Maya felt her heart rate spike. "What kind of something?" "The kind that requires this." Dante dropped to one knee beside her chair, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Maya's breath caught in her throat. "Maya Jackson," Dante said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "6 months ago you crashed into my life and changed everything. You made me want to be better, to do better, to build something meaningful instead of just accumulating power." The box was still closed in his hands, but Maya could barely breathe. "I love your strength, your compassion, your refusal to accept injustice. I love the way you see possibilities where other people see problems. I love that you challenge me to be the man I want to be instead of the man I was raised to be." He opened the box, revealing a ring that took Maya's breath away. It wasn't ostentatious or overwhelming. It was perfect. A classic solitaire setting with a diamond that caught the light like captured stars. "I want to build a life with you, Maya. I want to expand the foundation until it changes lives across the country. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the next 50 years. I want to have children with you and teach them that love is stronger than prejudice, that kindness is more powerful than fear." Maya was crying now, tears streaming down her face as she looked at this dangerous, complicated, wonderful man who was offering her everything she'd never dared to dream of. "Will you marry me, Maya Jackson? Will you let me love you for the rest of our lives?" "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Dante. Yes to all of it." He slipped the ring onto her finger with hands that trembled slightly, then stood to kiss her with a passion that felt like a promise. Later that evening, they called Maya's mother to share the news. "I knew it," her mother said, laughter and tears evident in her voice. "I knew the moment I met that man that he was going to marry my daughter." "How could you possibly have known that?" Maya asked. "Because of the way he looked at you, baby girl. Like you were the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life." The engagement brought its own challenges. Planning a wedding that honored both their backgrounds while staying true to who they were as a couple proved more complicated than either of them had anticipated. Maya wanted something elegant but not ostentatious, meaningful but not overwhelming. Dante wanted to give her the fairy tale she deserved while navigating the complex politics of which family members and business associates to invite. We could elope, Dante suggested one evening after a particularly stressful conversation with their wedding planner. Maya looked up from the seating chart she'd been struggling with for an hour. Run away and get married in secret. Private ceremony, immediate family only. We could go to Italy, or the Caribbean, or anywhere you want. Maya was tempted. The idea of avoiding all the complications and politics was appealing. But something held her back. I don't want to hide, she said finally. I don't want our wedding to be something we sneak away to do. I want to celebrate with the people who matter to us, even if some of those people are going to make it complicated. Even then, Maya set down her pen and moved to where Dante was sitting. We've spent months proving that our love is strong enough to handle complications. Our wedding should reflect that. So they planned a ceremony that was uniquely theirs. The venue was the museum where they'd attended their first charity gala together, a space that represented their shared commitment to making the world better. The guest list included Maya's mother and extended family from Brooklyn, Dante's relatives from Sicily, business associates who'd become friends, and foundation staff who'd become like family. The ceremony itself was a blend of traditions. Maya walked down the aisle to music that combined classical Italian melodies with gospel harmonies. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises that acknowledged both the joy and the challenges of the life they were choosing together. I promise to love you in all your complexity, Maya said, her voice clear and strong as she looked into Dante's eyes. I promise to stand beside you as you continue becoming the man you want to be. I promise to build something beautiful with you, something that honors where we come from and reaches toward where we want to go. Dante's voice was rougher with emotion when he spoke. I promise to cherish you, to protect you, to support your dreams even when they challenge mine. I promise to choose love over fear, progress over tradition, our future over my past. I promise to spend every day earning the gift of your trust. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the applause that erupted was genuine and joyful. Even family members who'd been skeptical seemed caught up in the emotion of the moment. The reception was everything Maya had hoped for. Speeches that made her laugh and cry, dancing that went late into the night, conversations between family members who'd never met but found common ground in their love for the couple. But the most meaningful moment came when Maya's mother and Dante's grandmother found themselves sitting together, watching their children dance. You raised a good man, Maya's mother said. And you raised a strong woman, Dante's grandmother replied. They're going to do beautiful things together. As Maya and Dante swayed together on the dance floor, surrounded by everyone who mattered to them, Maya felt a sense of completion she'd never experienced before. This wasn't just the end of their courtship. It was the beginning of the life they were going to build together. But every beginning comes with its own challenges, and married life brought new complications neither of them had fully anticipated. The first year of marriage tested them in ways their engagement period hadn't. Living together full-time meant navigating daily routines, work pressures, family obligations, and the simple reality of building a shared life when both of them were strong-willed, independent people. The foundation work that had brought them together also became a source of tension when Maya wanted to expand faster than Dante thought was prudent. We can't just throw money at problems and hope they go away, Dante argued one evening after Maya proposed opening foundation offices in 5 additional cities. We need to make sure the programs we have are working before we scale up. The programs are working, Maya replied, frustration evident in her voice. We have waiting lists in every city. People need help now, not after we spend 6 months studying data. Maya, I understand the urgency, but if we expand too fast and something goes wrong, we could end up helping no one. And if we expand too slowly, people suffer while we're being cautious. It was their first real fight as a married couple, and it scared both of them. They'd disagreed before, but this felt different. More personal, more fundamental. They worked through it, eventually finding a compromise that allowed for measured expansion while maintaining quality control. But the fight had revealed something important about their relationship. They were both passionate people with strong opinions, and learning to navigate disagreement without damaging their partnership required conscious effort. The second major challenge came when Maya discovered she was pregnant, earlier than they'd planned. She found out on a Tuesday morning, staring at the positive pregnancy test in the bathroom of their penthouse. She and Dante had talked about having children, but in abstract terms, as something for the future. This was suddenly, immediately real. When she told Dante that evening, his reaction was everything she could have hoped for and more. "Really?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. "We're having a baby." Maya nodded, still processing the news herself. "Are you okay with this? I know we said we wanted to wait a few more years." Dante pulled her into his arms, holding her gently, as if she were made of something precious and fragile. "Maya," he said softly, "this is the best news I've ever received. We're going to have a family." But pregnancy brought its own complications. Maya experienced severe morning sickness that lasted well into her second trimester, making it difficult for her to maintain her usual schedule with the foundation. Dante became overprotective, wanting to wrap her in cotton and keep her safe from any possible harm. "I can still work," Maya protested when Dante suggested she reduce her travel schedule. "I'm pregnant, not disabled." "You're carrying my child," Dante replied. "I'm not taking any chances with your safety." "Our child," Maya corrected. "And this is exactly what I was afraid of. That you'd start treating me like I'm made of glass." "I'm treating you like you're precious, because you are." They found their way through this disagreement too, establishing boundaries that kept Maya safe, while allowing her to continue the work that gave her life meaning. Dante learned to channel his protective instincts in helpful rather than controlling ways. Maya learned to accept that some of Dante's concerns were reasonable rather than just overprotective. Their daughter was born on a snowy February morning, arriving 3 weeks early but healthy and strong. Isabella Romano had her father's dark hair and her mother's determined expression, and from the moment she drew her first breath, she owned both her parents completely. Watching Dante hold their daughter for the first time, Maya felt her heart expand in ways she hadn't known were possible. This dangerous man who'd built an empire through strength and strategic thinking was reduced to tears by the trust of a sleeping baby. "She's perfect," Dante whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "Look at her, Maya. We made this perfect person." Maya had expected parenthood to change their relationship, but she hadn't anticipated how profoundly it would affect their perspective on everything else. The foundation work became more urgent because they were now fighting for the world their daughter would inherit. Family relationships took on new importance because Isabella would grow up knowing her heritage from both sides. But the most significant change was in how they approached the remaining dangerous aspects of Dante's world. The risks that had once seemed acceptable when they only concerned their own safety became unthinkable when they had a child to protect. "I want out," Dante said one evening when Isabella was 6 months old. They'd just received word that one of Dante's former associates had been killed in a territory dispute in Chicago. "Out of what?" Maya asked, though she thought she knew. "All of it," he replied. "The gray areas, the questionable associations, anything that could potentially come back to hurt our family. I want to be completely legitimate." Maya studied his face. "That's a big change, Dante. Are you sure?" He looked across the room to where Isabella was sleeping in her crib, tiny fists curled against her cheeks. "I'm sure," he said. "She deserves a father she can be proud of without reservations. We're going to build something clean, something good, something she can inherit without shame." The process of completely legitimizing Dante's business interests took 2 years. It involved selling some companies, restructuring others, and walking away from relationships that had been profitable but ethically questionable. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't cheap, but Dante approached it with the same strategic thinking that had made him successful in the first place. Maya supported him through every difficult decision, helping him see that the temporary financial losses were worth the long-term peace of mind. The foundation grew into something that employed hundreds of people and served thousands of families. Dante's legitimate business empire expanded into new areas: renewable energy, affordable housing development, technology companies focused on social good. By the time Isabella took her first steps, Dante Romano had successfully transformed from a man who straddled the line between legal and illegal into someone who could face any scrutiny and come out clean. But their happiness wasn't without its shadows. Maya's mother, who had been in remission for 3 years, began showing signs that the cancer was returning. The experimental treatments that had saved her life the first time were less effective the second time around. "We'll find other options," Dante promised when Maya broke down after a particularly difficult doctor's appointment. We'll try everything. But Maya had learned something about accepting reality during her years with Dante. Some fights could be won through determination and resources. Others had to be faced with grace and courage. She's not afraid, Maya told Dante one evening after spending the afternoon with her mother. She says she got to see me happy, got to meet Isabella, got to know you. She feels like she won. We all won, Dante replied, pulling Maya close. She raised an incredible daughter who changed my life. That's a legacy anyone would be proud of. Maya's mother passed away on a quiet Sunday morning in May, holding Maya's hand while Isabella played at the foot of her bed. It was peaceful and surrounded by love, everything Maya could have wished for and everything that made it no less heartbreaking. The funeral was a celebration of a life well lived. Friends from the old neighborhood, mixed with foundation staff and members of Dante's family, who'd grown to love Maya's mother during her extended illness. The service reflected the woman she'd been. Strong, loving, determined to see the best in people even when they disappointed her. She would have been so proud of what you've built, Dante said as they stood together at the graveside. Not just the foundation or our family, but the woman you've become. Maya leaned into his strength, grateful beyond words for his presence in this moment of loss. She taught me that love is always worth the risk, she said. That choosing hope over fear is the only way to really live. In the months that followed, Maya threw herself into expanding the foundation's work as a tribute to her mother's memory. They established a scholarship program for students whose parents were dealing with serious illnesses. They funded community centers in neighborhoods like the one where Maya had grown up. They created support networks for families navigating the healthcare system. But the most ambitious project was one that combined Maya's passion for social justice with Dante's business acumen. They began developing affordable housing complexes that included on-site medical clinics, childcare centers, and job training programs. The goal was to create communities where families could build stable, healthy lives regardless of their economic circumstances. It's what she always wanted, Maya explained to a reporter who was writing a story about the foundation's work. For people to have genuine opportunities to build better lives for their children. 3 years after Isabella's birth, Maya found herself pregnant again. This time the pregnancy was planned and anticipated, and Dante's protective instincts had evolved into supportive partnership rather than anxious hovering. Their son, Marco, was born on a warm September afternoon, named for Dante's father but destined to grow up in a world very different from the one his namesake had known. Where Isabella was thoughtful and observant, Marco was charming and social from his earliest days, already showing signs of the magnetic personality that would serve him well in the legitimate business world his father was building. Watching Dante read bedtime stories to both children became Maya's favorite part of every day. This man who had once been known for his ruthless business practices and dangerous connections was now someone whose greatest joy came from making his children laugh. You've changed, Maya observed one evening as they sat together in their living room, Isabella working on a puzzle at their feet, while Marco dozed against Dante's chest. Have I? Dante asked, adjusting his hold on their sleeping son. When I first met you, you were all sharp edges and calculated moves. Now look at you. Dante looked down at their children, then back at Maya. You changed me, he said simply. You and them. You gave me something worth being soft for. By the time Isabella started kindergarten and Marco was taking his first steps, the Romano family had become something Maya never could have imagined when she was serving champagne at weddings. They were wealthy but not ostentatious, powerful but not dangerous, influential but not corrupt. The foundation had grown into one of the largest charitable organizations in the country, with offices in 12 cities and programs that had helped over 100,000 families. Dante's business empire employed thousands of people and focused exclusively on industries that made positive social impacts. But more than their professional success, they had built something personal that Maya treasured above everything else. A family that functioned as a team, a marriage that had weathered challenges and grown stronger, a life that honored both their individual strengths and their shared values. One evening, as they prepared for a foundation gala that would celebrate the 5th anniversary of their expanded program, Maya found herself thinking about the woman she'd been when she first met Dante. Tired, struggling, invisible to most of the world around her. That woman could never have imagined standing in a designer gown in a penthouse bedroom, preparing to address an audience of some of the most influential people in the country. But the transformation wasn't just about external circumstances. Maya had discovered strength she didn't know she possessed, confidence that had grown from being truly seen and valued by someone who mattered to her. She'd learned to use her voice not just to advocate for others, but to advocate for herself and her family. "You ready for tonight?" Dante asked, appearing in the bedroom doorway in his tuxedo. Even after years of marriage, the sight of him in formal wear still made Maya's pulse quicken. "As ready as I'll ever be to ask very rich people to give away their money," Maya replied, smoothing her dress one final time. "They're going to say yes," Dante said confidently. "They always do when you ask. You have a way of making people want to be their best selves." At the gala, Maya delivered a speech that brought the audience to its feet. She talked about her mother's struggle with cancer, about the families they'd helped through the foundation's programs, about the communities they were building that gave children hope for futures they could be proud of. But the moment that mattered most to Maya came at the end of the evening, when she and Dante were finally alone on the museum's rooftop terrace where they'd had their first real conversation as a couple. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Mrs. Pemberton hadn't knocked that tray out of my hands?" Maya asked, leaning against the railing as she had that night years ago. Dante moved to stand behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist in a gesture that had become as natural as breathing. "I would have found another way to meet you," he said without hesitation. "Maybe it would have taken longer. Maybe the circumstances would have been different. But Maya, we were always going to find each other." Maya leaned back against his chest, looking out over the city that had become truly home in ways it never had been when she was struggling alone. "I love you," she said, the words as true as they'd been the first time she'd spoken them. "I love you too," Dante replied. "More than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Thank you for choosing to build this life with me." As they stood together overlooking the city where they'd both learned to hope for more than survival, Maya thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. It hadn't been simple or easy or without risk, but it had been worth everything. They'd built more than a marriage or a family or even a business empire. They'd built a legacy that would outlast them both. Programs that would help families for generations. Children who would grow up knowing that love could overcome any obstacle. A story that proved that sometimes the most unexpected connections could transform everything. And for Maya Jackson Romano, the woman who had once been invisible in designer ballrooms, that was more than enough. It was everything. The story continues to grow as their foundation expands internationally, as Isabella and Marco begin to understand the world their parents built for them, and as Maya and Dante navigate the beautiful complexity of a love that transformed them both into better versions of themselves. Some fairy tales end with happily ever after. This one simply continues, day by day, choice by choice, with two people who learned that the best love stories aren't about finding someone to complete you, but about choosing someone to build something beautiful with. What moments touched your heart in Maya and Dante's journey? Could you feel their love growing stronger through each challenge they faced? Did their transformation from that first night at the wedding to building a lasting legacy give you hope for your own story? Share your thoughts about this epic romance that proves love can truly conquer all when two people are willing to fight for each other and grow together. If you loved Maya and Dante's complete story, make sure to like and subscribe for more romance stories that will make you believe in the power of unexpected love. Which part of their journey was your favorite? The dramatic wedding cancellation that started it all, their first kiss in the panic room, meeting each other's families, the proposal, their wedding, or watching them build their beautiful family and foundation together. Hit that notification bell so you never miss stories of love that transforms, relationships that overcome every obstacle, and couples who prove that when you find the right person, every challenge just makes you stronger together. Remember, the greatest love stories aren't perfect, they're real, and they show us that choosing each other every day is what makes love truly lasting.